Needs too. I need to make sure that our counter-snipers are the best trained counter-snipers in the world. That they are exactly doing what we need them to do, and that they match counterparts in the military and Tier 1 forces. And right now, that requires us to be able to have the funding to be able to hire more people. You can't just give me money and say, hey, we're going to make sure that everybody gets overtime. Because the men and women of the Secret Service right now, we are redlining them. And they are rising to this moment, and they are meeting the challenges right now. And if you look back at their body of work over the last 60 days, the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, the Republican National Convention in Chicago, a visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu to Washington, D.C., and to West Palm Beach, which Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office supported. And then we go into the presidential debate in Philadelphia last week. And for those in the media that have been to a national special security event, if you saw the National Constitution Center last week, what you saw was pretty much a mini national special security event with the number of assets that were on that perimeter. And so our folks are rising to this moment, but it requires all of us to be able to have good conversations and make sure that we're getting the Secret Service where it needs to be. And I'm confident that we will achieve that because we don't have an alternative. Success, we have to have it every day. We cannot have failures. And in order to do that, we're going to have some hard conversations with Congress, and we're going to achieve that.
Last question, one more.
The special agent in charge of the FBI,
Yes, sir.
did he act alone? Did he have some kind of help?
At this point, we're still exploring that, investigating that. Our investigation will determine that. We do not have information that he's been acting with anyone else at present.
Do we know how long he's been in Florida when he arrived?
Oh, you snuck one in there.
At this point,
Our investigation is still determining that. Thank you.
All right. Anyhow, nope. That's it. We're not gonna do any more. All right. You got a lot of information there. The last thing I will tell you is, like the director of the Secret Service says, the president called me last night, President Trump. He thanked me for everything that we did along with the Secret Service. He knows we work great together, and he feels safe. That's important because he is. And what we did yesterday proves that the system can work because the suspect didn't even get close to getting a round off, and we apprehended him and brought him to justice. So we're very, very proud of that. Thank you, folks, for being here. I appreciate it.
Sheriff, one more time for the record. How do you pronounce his last name, Sheriff? Is it Ruth?
All right, some interesting revelations at that. And while the sheriff was, happy that this worked out well and that there were no problems, it could have been, but not for one agent who spotted a gun through a fence, a very different situation we'd be talking about right now. But you can well understand why President Biden was saying earlier today that Secret Service needs more help because there are a lot of unanswered questions. What we have already learned about Ryan Ruth, the shooter here, is the suspected gunman was on this golf course for or around 12 hours before ultimately being seen. And it really was by that one agent who caught him very, very close to maybe being within an easy shot of President Trump. There has been a lot of back and forth on that and whether the entire area was adequately protected, whether the former president should enjoy the same exact Secret Service protection by the President of the United States, and now Vice President Harris running for the presidency of the United States. All seem to be in agreement that was something that was probably in order, and especially right now. We're learning a little bit more about the alleged shooter as well, that he had been critical of Donald Trump over social media, particularly over just the last couple of years. There were also concerns he had about Donald Trump wandering from some promises he had made. He had made 19 donations to Democratic candidates since 2019. He has had a number of run-ins with law enforcement that go back back actually decades. There's a lot here to digest. Congressman Mark Green, Tennessee Republican, he sits on the House Homeland Security Committee. He's the chairman, kind enough to wait this out with us. And Congressman, what do you make of what you've learned? Obviously, there were some communication breakdowns here, and I know local law enforcement are feeling pleased that Donald Trump had faith in them and they in he and providing protection. But this was really a lucky break by one savvy, quick-witted agent that made this a very different event. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, Neil, one of the biggest sort of comparisons between this and Butler, when I was at the site immediately after the Butler event, I'm standing there where President Trump was doing our assessment of the situation. Cheadle had never even been there. And the acting director, Rowe, I mean, as soon as this incident happened, he's in Palm Beach County, right? So that's a huge difference from what the previous leadership of the Secret Service had done. Now, I will tell you that I look at the way this thing happened, and I'm actually supportive of their response. They had a forward team walking. They identified the shooter. They got to him before he shot. Those are all very good things. Those are things that need to be complimented. Now, there's some things we need to look into. For example, where were their UASs? And, you know, they had a helicopter in the air. What did the helicopter see? What was it covering? So there's a lot of questions that we got to dig into. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just immediately impressed with Rowe for getting on a plane and getting down there compared to Cheadle, his predecessor.
You know, it's interesting, too. I guess for now, what we know about the alleged shooter is he's facing 2 firearm counts, right? And if found guilty on both of those, he could be in jail for the next 20 years, pay $500,000 in fines. More might be coming forward. What did you make of, for now, just the 2 firearm count charges?
Yeah, you know, they have to have intent to charge some of the other stuff, and that's just going to take more investigative work, but they can hold him with these charges. So that's why they've, put those 2 charges down very quickly so they could hold him, continue to question him, and get to intent of why he hid in the bushes for 12 hours. Now, you and I, we apply a little logic. We know why he was there. Yeah. But they got to dig into that and get his intent to make the element of the crime and then make the charge on other things.
Well, apparently he's not talking himself right now. So what do you make of that?
Right. Well, I mean, he's a seasoned criminal. This guy was charged with a felony for a weapon of mass destruction. So this guy's a seasoned criminal. He knows how to handle himself in a situation like this. I saw the video clip that the sheriff talked about where he was arrested and guns around him, and he just walks out like, you know, he's been to Baghdad and been shot in combat. So, I mean, this guy he's a seasoned criminal. I think that's the observation to make.
That's a very interesting one. Chairman, could I get your take also on, apparently everyone was in agreement that Donald Trump should be afforded the same level of protection as the President of the United States, Joe Biden, right now. And it sounds like that hasn't happened yet. What did you make of that?
So I had a conversation with Acting Director Rowe on, I think it was Thursday of last week, about Butler. And let me tell you just again, it was a very candid, this is where we screwed up. These were the policies we didn't follow. Our policies are good, but we didn't even follow our own policies. I mean, he had a great laydown for myself and the ranking member. It was exceptional. I am still sort of keeping my eyes on him right now to see how he's going to do with this one. But they're moving forward to fix this. And what he told us on Thursday was that the president had gotten or was getting that level, the same level as President Biden. So the former president is getting the same level as President Biden, to my understanding from the conversation last Thursday.
So let's say now, all right, they're going to make sure that that is in place and that no matter where Donald Trump goes, there will be the same level of Secret Service protection and maybe coordination as is afforded the President of the United States with a guy who used to be President of the United States and wants to once again be President of the United States. But how do we monitor that?
Well, what we do, and I'll give you an example. I'm on the task force, looking into the Butler incident. We'll see how the speaker decides whether he wants to lump this into that or create a second task force. I'll leave that to him. But, I'm on that task force. We've gotten all of the lists of things that need to be sort of addressed from the Butler, the interim report on Butler. Now, all of that's going to go forward on this too, and resource, accountability, to get to the heart of your question, will come from those task forces. We will be asking, and this was a question I asked about Butler, I want to know where every Secret Service agent was that day and the week prior. Because they say we're constrained with resources. Well, tell me where all of your other resources were. That's one of the accountability questions that we'll be asking again for today. But today it looked like, they were ahead of the bad guy.
Indeed. Chairman, thank you so much. I know you have a lot on your plate, and very appreciative of you taking the time to talk to us. All right, so we're putting together what we can at this time. It's all tentative, again, at this time. So it's a good thing we have Pat Brosnan with us. Brosnan Risk Consultants, the founder and the president, a former NYPD detective. And Pat sees and puts together things that a lot of people can miss. And so, Pat, I'll go to you. Something I noticed in my notes that you had noticed, and this is the second time in a little more than 2 months we've had similar incidents of men who came very close to physically taking out a former president. That is, to put it mildly, unusual. Now, of course, we had the back-to-back attacks on Gerald Ford back in the 70s, but this stands out as being particularly odd in that they're almost identically played out the same way.
It's actually terrifying, Neil. And first of all, hats off. We had an extraordinary example of professionalism, hypervigilance, wolf-like supersonic X-ray vision, and skill as it relates to the U.S. Secret Service agent who was able to identify the muzzle of a black weapon about 6 inches long, about 1.25 inches round, by the way. I happen to own that weapon. I know precisely what it looks like, poking through a black fence in dark undergrowth. This guy spotted, or girl, spotted that weapon and moved with speed and precision and skill. Boom. Hats off to him. But, this is in 63 days. We have had 2 incidents where armed gunmen with snipered scopes, rifles, have gotten within 300 yards of the current GOP nominee and former president. They have gotten within striking distance twice in 63 days. Once, except for the extraordinary good fortune of the former president looking briefly at his Jumbotron and hitting his right ear, his head would have exploded on the global stage. That's a fact. That's been established. And yesterday, if not for the extraordinary speed, skill, and vision of that U.S. Secret Service agent, we could have had another absolute disaster on hole 5 at the Trump International Golf Course. This is terrifying business, Neil. I cannot for the life of me understand or find any precedents for where on 2 separate occasions, within 63 days, gunmen with rifles, with scopes, have gotten within extremely close, unimpeded range of field from the former president with loaded rifles. It's absolutely horrifying.
I
really
wonder as well.
And shocking.
No, I apologize, Pat. I wonder as well how this will affect not only Donald Trump's ongoing campaign schedule, but Kamala Harris's and the vice presidential candidates, because this does make you think, all right, once we might have there but by the grace of God, here's another example, there but by the grace of God. You can only be given so many there but by the grace of God's, right?
Absolutely, and I do believe it was divine intervention or providence that there was such extraordinary good luck on the part of the former president and the skill and speed yesterday of the Secret Service. But the reality is, had not they interjected, and had not, in fact, former Beaver Creek officer Greg Nichols fired the 9th round from the ground, as you well know, back on July 13th,
right,
and shattered the rifle stock of Thomas Matthew Crooks, disabling the buffer tube, as I've learned, and as is outlined very specifically in Congressman Clay Higgins' interim report to the Congress, where he identifies what precisely happened with that 9th round, because as you know, Crooks fired 5, then he fired 3.
Right.
And the 9th round fired was by Nichols. That disabled the stock, disabled the weapon. It knocked Crooks from his assassin's perch, right? An assassin's perch where he was nestled in up on Building 6. And then the counter snipers behind Trump's shoulder pivoted 180 and shot Crooks through the left side of his mouth, exiting in his right ear. And that was show over. But were it not for those extraordinary happenstance, fortuitous, providential events, the president, the former president, could very well have been dead. Yesterday is terrifying. Will it take a third attempted assassination attempt before former president gets the full and complete and thorough and comprehensive sitting president protective package? That's the question.
Well put, Pat. Thank you very much, and thanks for helping us out on these type of matters and stepping back and looking at the big picture. Pat Brosnan, on all of that. Well, I do think here that the Martin County Sheriff William Snyder framed this best, because you worry about what next. What else don't we know? He made an interesting comment earlier that the question the FBI and the Secret Service are laser focused on today is this guy part of a conspiracy? Is he a lone gunman? And with so many reports back and forth about Iran planning hits on Donald Trump and maybe targeting other leaders in this country, is that still an unanswered and unknown question? Stick around. We'll have more after this.
I wanna hold you forever.
I tell you now, this is crazy. Trump needs better protection, and that's the bottom line. We got to do something for him. You know, to let this.
If you have generalized myasthenia
gravis,
picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure, leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo for GMG and picture your life in motion.
I love to travel. I've been to Easter Island, the Galapagos, Morocco, India, and the first item that I pack is my balance of nature. It's been amazing.
Get 35% off your first set when you use discount code Fox News. It's Pod's biggest sale of the summer. Save up to 25% on moving and storage for a limited time. And see why Pods has been trusted with over 6 million moves. But don't wait. Use promo code BIG25 to save. Visit pods.com today.
The Donald Trump exclusive continues.
These are people that are destroying our country.
Don't miss part 2 of Trace's interview with the former president exclusively on Fox News at night.
Clogged gutters can cause big problems fast. Until now. Call 833 Leaf Filter today for your free gutter inspection.
I've had terrible flooding problems on my porch. Now I understand why.
Right now, Leaf Filter is offering a free inspection on your schedule. Leaf Filter is a permanent gutter solution, so you never have to worry about costly damage from clogged gutters again.
Call us today and schedule your free inspection.
To schedule your free inspection, call 833 Leaf Filter today or visit leaffilter.com.
I am embarrassed to say this, but I've been using deodorant on my armpits for the past 40 years. And yet anytime I noticed odor anywhere else, I thought I needed a second shower, I wasn't clean, or there was something wrong with me. And then my gynecologist told me about Lumi. It's a whole body deodorant for pits, feet, and privates that controls odor anywhere and everywhere on your body. I tried it and I noticed a difference right away. Everywhere. You won't realize the body odor you've just been living with until you try Lumi and it's gone. Go to lumideo.com to build your customized bundle today.
What is Circle? Circle is what you hope for when life tosses lemons your way. Circle is your frosted treat with a sweet kick of confidence. Circle is the effortless energy that gets you in the zone. Circle, available at Walmart and drinkcircle.com.
This is from Populish. You know, the brand that made those viral shapewear dresses?
It has this mesh shapewear underneath that's super breathable and stretchy. This looks incredible and it's super comfy too. Guys, this is gonna boost your confidence so much. You guys can check them out at populish.com.
All right, we so far have no hint of a conspiracy in this assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but they're trying to put a lot together because we do know that Iran was seeking him out to kill him not too long ago. And then there's this separate issue of a Pakistani national with ties to Iran appearing in court today to face charges he attempted to kill U.S. political leaders on U.S. soil. Eric Shawn following that story. Hey, Eric.
Yeah, hey, Neil. We're here in downtown Brooklyn at the federal courthouse where an international alleged assassin was arraigned this afternoon. It is believed that it was sent here to the United States by Iran to kill American politicians. That arraignment just about 2 hours ago. The defendant in this shocking case is 46-year-old Asif Merchant. Merchant is Pakistani-born, a terrorist suspect charged with terrorism, now accused of trying to arrange the assassination of U.S. politicians or government officials right here on U.S. soil. In court, his attorney complained that he's not getting the proper halal diet, and since his arrest about 2 months ago, he's lost 15 to 20 pounds while he's been behind bars. Well, the American officials who prosecutors say Merchant was plotting to assassinate, well, they have not been named, but Trump, President Biden, and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley have been mentioned as his possible alleged targets. Merchant arrived in our country from Pakistan in April, flew from Houston, Texas, here to New York City, where he met with a confidential source and a pair of hitmen. Prosecutors say he then turned over $5,000 to carry out the assassination plan to those hitmen. But guess what? They were actually undercover FBI agents. You know, for several years, Iran has vowed to kill the former president and other top administration officials as retaliation for Trump ordering the killing of top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani back in 2020. The Foundation for the Defense of Democracy's expert Behnam Ben Tablo says that the Iranian assassin operation aimed at Trump officials is directly aimed at murdering former President Trump, among others.
When the Islamic Republic says death to America, it means it. When it says death to Israel, it means it. And we have senior Iranian political, military, and even religious officials talking about the imperative killing former President Trump. They mean it.
Well, Merchant pled not guilty. The next court hearing here will be in November. And by the way, Neil, his lawyer also complained that they're not letting him out of his cell enough, that the cell is kind of small and he wants him to be let out of the cell more often.
All right, well, that's a good footnote on that. Eric Shawn, great reporting, my friend, as always. He's following those developments here. We just heard from...
Conduct analysis. We'll be compiling the subject's movements in the days and months leading up to September 15th. Cellular data shows that the subject was in the vicinity of the golf course roughly 12 hours before the engagement with the United States Secret Service.
All right, I apologize. I stepped on the FBI representative there at today's coordinated press conference. They're trying to piece together a little bit more, and so far having very little luck about the whereabouts and the time frame about what Root was doing in not only the hours before this event, but dating back months to try to piece together what he was about, what he might have intended. Dan Emmett is a former Secret Service agent with an arm's length, the Secret Service agent's definitive inside account of protecting the president. So he should know how this goes. Dan, it's an honor to have you. What do you make of what you've heard and what we are trying to glean about one Ryan Ruth?
Well, Neil, you have to keep in mind that this incident's about 24 hours old. And I would say that for that amount of time since the incident occurred, they've probably found out a great deal, but certainly not all of it. If he's not talking, it's going to be up to the investigators for the Bureau, the Secret Service, the local police, to find out where he was, how he's got there, how he was able to hide himself in that cover for 12 hours, and the type of weapon he was using and so on, to include especially, is he a part of a conspiracy?
There's nothing to indicate at this point it was. We don't know what we'll discover. But, Dan, this is yet another case of a guy who leaves a pretty long social media record behind him that dates back years, some say decades, depending on what data point you're getting. What do you make of that?
Well, he has an ego. People that spend a lot of time on social media, like this fellow, usually do, and that can very frequently be their downfall. So they're going to go in, they're going to look at all of his devices, his desktop, his laptop, his cell phone, all of those things. Cyber forensic evidence play a big part in determining these types of crimes and how he did it.
Do you think then the Secret Service is overwhelmed? We've just said that Donald Trump should get the same level of protection as President Biden, and I'm thinking I'm in this city where next month we're going to have all these, UN meetings with leaders from around the world here. That too will fall under, not entirely, but largely the Secret Service umbrella. That's a lot of responsibility spread among so many individuals with such a fixed budget for the time being.
The Secret Service is overwhelmed. It's always been overwhelmed. It was overwhelmed for the 21 years I was there, and I'm sure it still is. There is a finite number of agents available. You can't just pull agents off a tree. It takes about a good year to train them, vet them, get them up to speed, and about another 2 years before they're seasoned enough to really take on any aspect of the job. Right now, the Secret Service has about 32 protectees, which is absolutely ridiculous. A lot of those people don't need Secret Service protection. They have details at the whim of the president, Hunter Biden, for example.
Okay.
They could certainly pull agents off of his detail and put them on President Trump's detail, where they might do a lot more good.
All right. Someone's going to have to coordinate all of this. And Dan, all good points. Dan, the former Secret Service agent, across the investigation into how this could have happened or almost happened. A little bit of luck. Here comes the 5.
I'm Dana Perino, along with Judge Jeanine Pirro, Harold Ford Jr., Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld, making sure his phone is turned off. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is the 5. And just moments ago, the FBI, Secret Service, and other officials giving a major update on the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. Watch this here.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
What we did yesterday proves that the system can work, because the suspect didn't even get close to getting a round off, and we apprehended him and brought him to justice.
It comes as we get chilling new details on the would-be assassin, including what he was doing right before getting caught. New records show that 58-year-old Ryan Ruth was lying in wait, spending nearly 12 hours hiding in a sniper's nest near Trump's golf course before being confronted. A Secret Service agent opening fire after spotting a rifle poking through a chain-link fence while the former president was golfing, causing the suspect to flee in a car until cops caught up with him.
Driver! Walk straight back! Keep walking! Keep that long.
The Secret Service director also addressing concerns that his agency needs more resources. Watch here.
We also have a necessary need to make sure that we're getting the personnel that we have. And that requires us to be able to have the funding to be able to hire more people. You can't just give me money and say, hey, we're going to make sure that everybody gets overtime. Because the men and women of the Secret Service right now, we are redlining them. And they are rising to this moment, and they are meeting the challenges right now.
All right, Judge, take us through your thoughts.
Well, this is the second assassination attempt in 2 months, and you're only lucky so many times. Now, the Secret Service, you may recall, told us that the protection of Donald Trump was upgraded after we received the Iranian intelligence of the threat against him based upon his takedown of Soleimani as well as Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And but what we saw in Butler was a fiasco of finger-pointing by the Secret Service, as well as incompetence and reluctance by the Secret Service, although I would point out that we still haven't gotten the final report on this. But on yesterday, thank God that there was one Secret Service agent who was able to see the barrel of that rifle coming through a gated fence and was able to shoot. And God bless him for the fact that he had the ability to see and stop that. But I also want to be clear that I don't know that the attempted assassin, would have been caught but for a civilian who took a photo of the car and got the plate number. So the first question I have is there really communication, or is there communication at all, between the local police and the Secret Service? Now, there also is, why there's still question as to whether or not Donald Trump is getting presidential level protection. There were no drones, okay? There were no dogs. And, you know, he's talking.